So in this episode, we're going to be revisiting color management, and I'm going to look at not only Resolve color management, but also ACES. So we're going to look at what it is, when to use it, when would I use it, what's the difference between Resolve color management and ACES. I'm going to show you all this in this episode. Now, this is going to start off very beginner level. So if you're a bit more advanced, you might want to look at the timestamps below and maybe skip out the first few minutes. And for those of you who are beginners, I hope this sort of enlightens you a little bit about Resolve color management and ACES. So let's go and take a look. So I'm in a project here. I've got a few different sequences in here. So I'm going to go through these in order and explain through ACES and Resolve color management and how it all works. So the first one I've got here is called display versus scene. So this is great if you are an absolute beginner and you're wondering what those terms mean. Display referred grading and scene referred grading. What's the difference? So let me show you. I've got some shots down here. These are shot with Arri and they are in ProRes. So they've got a nice log profile and we need to make them look better. So display referred grading is when you are literally looking at your grading display or your monitor or whatever you've got, and you just start grading yourself to get the image looking better. So obviously it's log, so we need to get a bit of contrast in there. To do that, I could bring down my lift here. Let's increase my gain. Let me put my scopes onto waveform so I can see what I'm doing. Bring bar offset a little bit. Let's put a bit more work in the shadows, something like that. Let's add a little bit of saturation. And we've got ourselves a really nice looking image that could go to the web now, that could go for broadcast. That's perfectly acceptable, it's perfectly legal. I'm now going to show you the difference between doing that and doing it using scene referred grading. Now, scene referred grading means we're going to use camera manufacturers' technical specs to get us to a more technical starting point ready to do our grade. So this is perfectly fine to use. However, we can get better results using technology. So I'm going to add another version. And I did that on the panel. Let me just show you how to do that if you wanted to do it on the software. You just right click on the icon here, say local version and create new version. And what I'm going to do is reset that now. And very easiest way to actually get this going is I can right hand click on here. I can go to my LUT and I can just say Arri Alexa log C to Rec 709. And what this is doing is putting me in a technically better starting point as intended by the camera manufacturer. So this is the Arri LUT, and that is taking me to Rec 709. So this is exactly how it should have kind of looked on set. So let's compare that to my version. So there's my one, and there's the one off the Arri LUT. Okay, so that is the difference between display and scene referred grading. So what we're doing here is using a LUT to take us from the Arri log space into our display space, which is Rec 709, Gamma 2.4 in my instance. Now, when we use a LUT, you are fixed on that output. I can't output to P3 for cinema, for example. I can't output to HDR. Unless I've got a specific LUT that is doing that. So a better way of doing that is to use DaVinci Resolve, and we're going to do it in a little bit more intuitive way. So I'm going to reset that, and what we're going to do is go to our effects, and we go down here and we say color space transform. I'm going to drag and drop that on, and all we've got to do now in here, I'm just going to get rid of these because I'm going to keep this at basic level. So all we're going to do now is tell Resolve what this image is. So its input color space is Arri wide gamma 3, and our input gamma is log C3. I know that because I know that from the shoot. And our output color space wants to be Rec 709. And that is a regular broadcast output. And gamma 2.4 if you're for broadcast, and gamma 2.2 if you're going to the web. So let's put that on. And we've got a very similar look. So again, let's compare that to my one when I did my display referred grading. Pretty similar, but not technically correct. And that is the one with the color space transform. So that is a beginner's basic guide as to why to use color management and not just work in display referred grading. Now, what we can do now is take this and copy it across all the shots. So I'm just going to highlight them all. I'm going to middle mouse click on this one. And these are all now in a really good starting point. And now we're going to put our look on it and add our, we want to cool off the shadows a bit, increase the highlights, that sort of thing. But we've got ourselves a really good technical starting point. So how does this help us moving forward? Well, let's move on to the next sequence. So if I go to here and we look at our color managed sequence, what I've got here is 4 different camera manufacturers. And what I've done is create color space transforms. I've pre-built these using the correct input color space for each individual camera. So this one here is shot with red. So it's using the red log 3G10 profile. This one you've just seen me do is the Arri log C. And this one here was shot on Canon camera. So it's Canon log 2. And the final one here is Blackmagic Raw. So this is shot Film Gen 5. And you can see that by using color space transforms or LUTs if we wanted to, or indeed using color management, we're getting these shots into a really good starting point. And we're matching those cameras. Admittedly, these are all completely different scenes, but if this was 4 different cameras on the same scene, the color management would get all those cameras to the right starting point. So let's have a look at the different color management options in DaVinci Resolve. And just before I do that, think about subscribing to the channel. I don't ask very often, but by subscribing, it means I know that I'm delivering the right content that you want. And if you hit the notification bell, you're not going to miss any of my future videos as well. So I'm going to change on to timeline number 3, and we're going to look at ACES. All right, so let's bring up our color management options. We're currently in DaVinci YRGB, which means we're not color managed unless we use a color space transform or a LUT. And we've got a DaVinci YRGB color manager. I'm going to come to that in a moment. But we've got these two here, ACES CC and ACES CCT. So what's the difference between the two? ACES CC was the original ACES. It has a slightly lower shadow point than ACES CCT. So ACES CCT has a slightly lifted toe, which means it's a little bit easier to control with. I prefer using CCT. I think most people work ACES CCT, but the two options are there. So if we select CCT, we then have our ACES version. So you've got all these different versions if you need to be backwards compatible. We're going to use the latest one, ACES 1.3. And you then have this option, ACES Input Transform. So this is basically saying what is the source material. So whether it's Arri or Canon or whatever it is. And if we leave that onto no input transform, we can specify it on a clip-by-clip basis or multiple clips at a time. Our output transform is Rec 709. So we want to deliver to Rec 709, okay? And we don't worry about all the other stuff at the moment, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to say save. And because these clips are raw, they're automatically recognized in ACES, and ACES knows what they are. So it knows that this one's Blackmagic, it knows that this one's Arri, and it knows that this one's red. So they're already in a fantastic starting point. So what is ACES actually doing? It's a single color space that's basically standardizing across the industry. So if I'm working on ACES on Resolve and I send this to a flame artist and they're working in ACES, we're in exactly the same color space. The DaVinci Wide Gamut is very exclusive to DaVinci Resolve. ACES is a standard across all platforms. Okay, so it has a very large color space, it has an ultra wide gamut, it has a huge dynamic range, it's something like 25 to 30 stops of dynamic range, so it's absolutely huge. Let me show it you on a scope. If I go to our CIE graph and let me just pop that out there, so you can see here AP0. So when you go into ACES, it's called AP0. Okay, this is this huge color space here. So let me just switch that off for a moment and I can show you. So this is visible light. This is Rec 709. So it's our small little display that we're trying to get down to. And let me just show you. So ACES is AP0, and that is this huge, beautiful, large color space that we're going to work in. All right, so it contains everything. DaVinci Wide Gamut, very similar, but it's not a standard. So the main idea behind ACES is that everything gets sent into this AP0 color space. So it's the large ACES color space. And that means that it's unified across everything. So if you're working with Arri, if you're working with Canon, if you're working with Sony, if you're working with Rec 709 footage, it all goes into this large ACES pot. So this is all well and good, but because these clips are raw, ACES knows what they were originated from and what to set them to for our display to Rec 709. So it knows this was shot on Blackmagic, it knows this is Arri. What happens when you record to something like ProRes? You're not capturing raw. So let's have a look at our next sequence. So we'll move down here. So we've got an Arri shot, we've got a red shot, and we've got Canon here, and they look really strange. And the reason for that is because they've not got an input device transform yet. ACES doesn't know what it is. So what we're looking at is these shots in this huge AP0 color space, which is ACES, and that color space is actually linear. So these shots behave really strangely. If I start adjusting lift and gain, I'm not going to be able to get a really decent looking image. And that's because AP0 is very hard to work with. So how ACES addresses this is it puts it from this linear space into a more usable space that we call AP1. So it's a little bit smaller, more logarithmic, it behaves a little bit more like we're used to in our log color space. And the only way we can get it into AP1, let me just show you what AP1 looks like. And this all happens automatically, okay? ACES does this automatically. So every single thing you've got goes to AP0. Then before you start using your controls, once you've applied an input device transform to it, which I'm going to do in a moment, it then works in AP1. Once you finish with that, it goes back to AP0 and then it goes to your display color space. So in our case, that'd be Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. This is all happening under the hood really smoothly. So let me show you what AP1 looks like. So you can see it's much smaller, it's a much more usable color space, and it works a lot better. So let me show you how we get these correct so we're not working in this linear color space. So right hand click on it, you go ACES input transform. This has now appeared because we're working in ACES, and you say Arri log C3, and there we go. So now it's gone from Arri to AP0, automatically down to AP1, to AP0 again, everything gets mapped back to AP0, and then it goes down to our display space, which is Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. Same with this one, let's right and click, ACES input transform, and we go on here and we say red, and it's log 3G10, and I just know that because I know what these clips are. And this one here, let's go our ACES, and if I go into our color space conversion, we can go Canon log 2 into ACES. So that's how we work. So it's called IDT. Now, if we went to our settings here, you can set an ACES input transform. Because we had it set to no input transform, that means AP0. And this is actually a preferred working method when you're working with visual effects artists. They often want it in linear space. So no input transform equals linear space, AP0. If I set this to be Arri log C3, anything that's not raw would have Arri log C3 applied to it, and obviously you can override that on a shot-by-shot basis. So I could override that with our red and our Canon. So I leave it set to no input transform. You can do this at media pool level, so you could do multiple clips at a time. You don't have to do every single shot. If you've got 600 shots, you can do it at media pool level. So this is our starting point. This has got all our cameras matched. We can grade on top of this very easily now. And the beauty, obviously working in ACES, is that we can change our output transform at any point. So if you want to do a delivery for Rec 709, and then you want to do a delivery for P3 or for HDR, it's really easy to do. You just switch it here. Okay, everything is then transposed at the end. So it goes source in, AP0, down to AP1 so it's more manageable to grade and the tools work a lot better, and then it goes back to AP0 and back out to your display. Okay, that is how ACES works. So before we look at the pros and cons of working in ACES, let's take a further look at Resolve color management. So I'm going to switch over to this timeline here, and we are going to go to our color management settings, and we're going to come off ACES CCT, and we're going to go to this one, DaVinci RGB color managed. All right, now the nice thing with this, let me just press save so it updates. So this image has straight away gone into looking log, and that's because DaVinci Resolve does not know what the camera source was for this shot. It knows what this one is because it's raw, and it knows what this one is because it's raw again, red, and this one's also raw, so it's Arri. So similar to ACES, DaVinci Resolve color management knows what it is because raw is telling it what the camera source was. Whereas this clip here was shot with ProRes, or was recorded ProRes, even though it's Canon, so we would need to tell DaVinci Resolve what this is. So if I right hand click on here, we've got our input color space here, and it's currently set to the project. And if we go down here, we can go Canon and Canon log 2, and there we go. So that's now set. So it's a very similar thing. So that's the input color transform. So if we click on here, we are just in this really simple mode. This is by default automatic color management. It's really great if you're an absolute beginner, you want to work color managed, but you don't really want to delve that deep. You can just switch it onto this. You can go SDR or HDR. Let's go a little bit deeper. I'm going to take the automatic color management off. I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to scroll down to custom here. And we get a very similar menu to what we had when we were in ACES. You've got your input color space. This is the same as the IDT, which stands for input device transform on ACES. So basically saying what is the source. By default, we're just saying if we don't know what it is, it's Rec 709. That's why this shot looked very log and flat, because it's defaulted to Rec 709 when actually it should be Canon log C2. The timeline color space is currently set to Rec 709. I'm going to come to that in a moment. The output color space, Rec 709 scene. So let's change that to be Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 or Gamma 2.2 if you're working for the web, but we're going to set that to Gamma 2.4. Okay, and there's lots of other options here. We're not going to go into these in this particular episode. We're going to get deep, but not quite that deep. Okay, the timeline color space, what is that? Now the timeline color space is the working color space that determines how each clip's contrast and color are mapped for adjustment. So it basically affects the sensitivity of all these controls. Okay, so depending what timeline color space we work in, currently set to Rec 709, will depend how these tools behave. Okay, some of them are what's called color space aware, so they can behave very differently. Now in ACES, they're working in AP1. They're working in AP1 color space. Okay, that is fixed. In Resolve Color Management, we can set whatever we want. So we could set our timeline color space to actually be ACES if we want to. But we generally, and as you've seen on all my episodes before, we go for DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. So that is a nice large timeline working color space that keeps us all our controls working really nicely. And we're done. So with some simple color management, we've got these different camera formats, all in a very good starting point, ready to start our actual grade. If we want to change our output color space, that's easily done here. We just go to our output color space. We can change that from Gamma 2.4 to Gamma 2.2 to HDR to P3 to whatever deliverable we want. So what's the difference between ACES and Resolve Color Management then? These clips look pretty much the same to me. I can't really tell the difference with my naked eye to that one in ACES versus it in Resolve Color Management. So what is the difference? Let's start with ACES. It's an industry standard, so it has better interoperability between different platforms. So if you're working on a basslight in ACES, going to Flame in ACES and coming back to DaVinci Resolve in ACES, it's a unified color space. So it's exactly the same on all of those different platforms. It's open source, so it's very open to developers to use and incorporate into their systems. If you're working for broadcasters like Netflix, you are highly recommended, if not forced, to work in ACES color space anyway. And it's a little bit easier to manage. There's less options than you find in Resolve Color Management. Resolve Color Management can be basic, as we saw earlier, but it can go much, much deeper. So you don't have things like tone mapping to really worry about. So looking at Resolve Color Management, it's much more scalable. So you can start at beginner and you can go very advanced. So you can really start fine-tuning your tone mapping and the settings that you've got in there. And you can save those as presets. You can also work with color space transform. So you can really get pretty nerdy with where your color spaces are going. You can choose your working color space. So we can choose to work in DaVinci Wide Gamut. This is the timeline color space. We can work in DaVinci Wide Gamut. We can work in Rec 709. You can work in Arri. You can work in ACES. We have a choice. Remember, with ACES, you're working in that AP0 to AP1 color space. The controls can feel a little bit more familiar in DaVinci Resolve, especially if that's how you've been working. Moving to ACES, it does feel slightly quirky to start with. And it also has a different starting point. So I want to show you that. When I take a footage and put it into ACES color space without doing any grade on it, it actually has a different starting point than DaVinci Resolve. So let me show you that. Let's take this shot here. So we're currently in DaVinci Resolve YGB color managed. We're in DaVinci Wide Gamut timeline color space. Output is Gamma 2.4. So let's take that. So I'm going to grab this as a still. This is a great starting point. It looks fantastic. We're ready to start grading. So I'm going to right and click on that. I'm going to grab a still of it. And I'm going to label this one Resolve Color Management. All right, let's switch to ACES. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to switch into ACES CCT. 1.3, I'm not worried about an input transform because this is raw, so it's going to do it for me. My output is going to be Rec 709, and we're good to go. So let's press save on that. And straight away, I could see a difference in this. When you're working in ACES, it has a much more contrasty starting point. So let's compare the two. So that is ACES, as you can see, a much more contrasty starting point. It is different, basically. So you're going to have to choose which one you like as a starting point. And this is Resolve Color Management starting point. So it's a little bit more lifted. It's less contrasty. And I personally prefer to work like this. I prefer the way that the Resolve Color Management gives me a starting point than ACES. So personally, if I'm not forced to work in ACES because I'm not working on a Netflix show, I'm going to work with Resolve Color Management and have this slightly less contrasty starting point. So my big problem is I might want to work in ACES color space, but I don't want to work in the ACES color management mode. I like my sort of CST style. I like the way that I can control the workflow. So what I'm going to do is show you a good trick. I'm going to come out of ACES CCT. I'm going to come to non-color managed, regular here. I'm going to go to DaVinci Wide Gamut in here, as I always do on all my episodes. I'm going to go to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 because that's going to be my output. I'm going to say save. All right, so this shot now doesn't know what it is because we're not color managed. So it's raw, but we're not in ACES and we're not in DaVinci Automatic Color Management. So what I'm going to do is work in a non-automatic color managed environment, and I'm going to build up my own ACES workflow. So what we do, we take a node here, and I'm going to drag this thing here, not a color space transform, which is what I normally do. So we need to take this from Blackmagic Film up to normally to DaVinci Wide Gamut, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to send it to ACES. So I'm going to use this thing called ACES Transform instead of a color space transform. I'm going to drag and drop it on. So now I've got a mini version of the ACES color space that we were looking at earlier. So I'm going to go to 1.3. My input transform on here is basically my source, which is, in this case, it is Blackmagic Design Film Gen 5. That looks a little bit weird because my output transform is currently not set. So what I'm going to do is set that, not to Rec 7 and 9, but I'm going to set it to be ACES CCT. And what I'm going to do now is add another serial. And this serial number 2 is going to be what I do my grading on. So you might have 3, 4, 5, 6, however many of these that you need. And I'm going to do another one at the end, and this is going to be another ACES transform. So we're currently going from Blackmagic Film Gen 5, or this could be red, Arri, whatever it is. Color grading is going to happen here. And this one, we're going to go from ACES CCT. And this is going to be our output transform now. So we come all the way down here, ACES CCT, and our output transform, so Rec 7 and 9, there we go. That is now an ACES workflow inside DaVinci YRGB. And just to check that is truly working in ACES now, what we can do is double click our still that we grabbed that was our Resolve Color Management one. If I double click that, you can see that we do indeed have that slightly more contrasty starting point. So that's if it was just regular Resolve Color Management. And this is our new ACES pipeline that we've built outside of the ACES color space color management settings. So we know that we're getting a very accurate starting point. And the beauty of this now is I could click on here, we could start grading. So let's have a look at something like, I don't know, the Film Look Creator, for example. Now what we want to do is go to our color space overrides here, and our input color space is actually ACES AP1. That's what's being fed into this. And our input gamma, ACES CCT. And our output color space is ACES AP1. And our output color space here is ACES CCT. So now we've got the correct starting point on there. We can now go in and let's have a look at this Rochester one, which I did an episode on a few weeks ago. It's kind of, Rochester is where the Kodak headquarters is, so we're presuming this is a kind of not a Kodak, but that is a really nice starting point there. We can change a few more things in here. Let's go to, let's just have a look. Bleach bypass, let's add a little bit bleach bypass in there, something like that. And once we develop this look, we could export this as a LUT and confidently know it's in a true ACES pipeline. So it's going to work on set, it's going to work with VFX artists working on flame, and you know you're in true ACES color space. So one question I get asked a lot is what do you do if you don't know what the source is of the material you're working in? So you don't know what to set it to start with. You don't know whether it's Arri, Canon, whether it's Rec 7 and 9, it might be stock footage. What do you do? So let's have a quick look in our media pool. I've got a few more clips here. So we've got some, these are quite clearly red, and one here is shot with my drone. Let's presume we don't actually know what this is. So what I'm going to do is just edit it into my timeline. I'm just going to drag it in like so. Go to my color page, and there's the shot appearing now. So the first thing to do is phone the production company or speak to the DP and find out what it was actually shot on. If you can't get that information, the next thing to do is look at the file name itself. Often that can be a clue. So Sony writes in a certain format, Canon writes in a certain format, and that will at least get you the right manufacturer to start with. You can then just play around with its S-Log2 or S-Log3, a little bit of experimenting. This one, for example, let's presume that we don't know what it is. So what we're going to do, let's come out of here and let's go to Resolve Color Management. So I'm going to go to my color management here. Let's just go to regular DaVinci Color Management and say OK. So what we're going to do now is have a look at our input transform. So this, you can do this as a CST or use the input color space here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and try a few out. I mean, there's no harm in just trying Arri, for example. And often I've worked with Canon footage, knowing that it's Canon, and I've actually used an Arri profile on it, an Arri color space, and it works really nicely. So just try a few out, see what happens. This is clearly far too concentrated to be Arri. So what I'm going to do is presume that none of these are going to look that good. I'm going to change it to be Rec 7 and 9. Rec 709 scene means obviously it's shot Rec 709. It's not a display. So a display has a gamma 2.2 or 2.4, for example. This is Rec 709 scene. That means we're just going to grade it as we did at the beginning of this episode where we did our display referred grading. So there's no reason to worry about that at all. We're telling the color management that it's Rec 709 and we're just going to grade it. So we can actually start. I've actually done an episode on grading this as drone footage, but there's nothing wrong with just doing something simple like that. And we're good to go. So if you really don't know what it is, set the input color space to be Rec 709 scene. This is what you would do with stock footage that's already graded as well. But the idea is we want to send it to either ACES if you're working in ACES, or we want to send it to DaVinci Wide Gamut. So at least it's in a color management pipeline. If you don't know what it is, set it to Rec 709. There's nothing wrong with that. So I hope this episode has enlightened you about color management, whether you're a beginner or an intermediate user. We've looked at LUTs, CSTs, ACES, we've looked at Resolve color management, the differences between the two, when you'd use one over the other, which ones I like using. This episode took me quite a long time to develop, so I would love it if you subscribed, if you like this sort of stuff. If you don't, then don't subscribe, obviously. Hit the notification bell, look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next episode.